Welcome back to the channel. Right, as promised, a quick video. I'm saying quick, I've already tried to record this twice. It's taking like 25 minutes, so quick video on how I edited the tree photograph from the last video, which I'll put a link there so you can see it. Right, I'm going to do this as quickly as possible, so if you get stuck or anything like that, you want to try and follow it, you have to rewind. But into Lightroom we go. So I'm in Lightroom now. Effectively what I've done is I've done some global changes to this picture just to save a bit of time. So I've done the lens correction, so I've done my lens correction and my chromatic aberration. So I've done all that. I've reduced the highlights down because you'll see that the histogram now is nicely balanced across. I've not done anything with the exposure, I haven't done anything with temperature or anything like that, vibrance or anything else on here, because I like to do my sky replacement first and then come back in and do the editing in Lightroom. So what we need to do now is right click into edit in Luminar 4, edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments, boom, there we go, let it do its thing. I don't know why it is, but when I do these edits, I always have Bob Ross, you know, the old painter that used to stand there doing his oil painting with his canvas. I always have him in my ear for some reason, I don't know why. A quick swig of beer and we're in, and it keeps advertising this thing, which I don't want to buy because I've already got Luminar 4. Right. You can use Luminar 4 as a standalone image processor if you want, whatever you want to do. I don't. I use Lightroom and Photoshop for all my heavy lifting. I use Luminar only for sky replacements and additional adding suns, should we say. Right, so ignore all the essentials, into create AI sky replacement, sky selection. Now it's got a load of skies that you can pick from that it gives you as custom skies, but to be honest, I've got my own, so I use my own. I've already got my sky that I used on this image, so we'll select that one, open, let it think for a second or two, and it works its magic. Advanced settings now, so effectively we can do horizon blending and all this sort of stuff. It can move the horizon position now. On this one I did move it slightly, I think, from memory. I moved it up. Oh, hang on, maybe not that far. Maybe I didn't move it up, maybe I moved it down. Trying to remember how you edited a photograph, it's not easy. Anyway, for argument's sake, we'll leave it where it is. The only thing that I did do on it though was I closed the gaps. If you look on here, Luminar's good, but there's areas where it's just missed bits of the grass. So effectively you come out into close gaps. I always whack that all the way up to the 50 top, as much as you can get out of it. You can change the temperature of the sky if you want as well, so we can make it warmer, we can make it bluer. I think for this one I'm going to try and create a warmer image, so it's going to warm it slightly. Now what you can do is relight the scene, and this is going to adjust the tones in the foreground here. So relight the scene. You can go crazy with this and make it completely dark. I don't want to lose it all. I think that'll do. Yeah. Atmospheric haze, it makes it more, well, it looks like it just makes it whiter, if I'm being honest. Sky exposure, obviously we can make it brighter, we can make it darker, and you see how that's having an effect as well on the foreground. I just leave that as it was because I can do all the sky exposure and stuff like that in Lightroom later on. Okay, right. Next thing, sun rays. Need to put a sun in because you can see there's one here. So just grab hold of a sun. The white dot there is where the sun centre is going to be. So all I did was I just drag that down there somewhere. That'll do. Place it there. Now we can adjust the amount that we want the sun to be, so we have it really bright, or you can just balance it off. I think I'm going to place it just a little bit higher, because what I want to do, I want to try and catch this, I want to bring this water out here. So look at that, that looks alright to me. Yeah, advanced settings, so we can change the number of sun rays that we want, we can have loads or less. I tend to, I don't know why, I always tend to warm the sun up a little bit on these sort of like late evening images, and then also warm the rays as well so they don't look out. Okay. Sun rays penetration. Let's have a look at that. Some of these you're just playing with it. You're just having a little look just to see what if you go all the way to one side, what does it do? If you take it all off, what does it do? So and then this randomize moves the sun rays. So what I tried to do, there you go. You can see this sun ray now is coming through there. It's going to catch this this waterfall here, and that's all I'll do in Luminar. It does everything for you. So apply. That's now going to chuck it back into Lightroom. So once it's done that, we'll carry on. If I'm rushing through this, I'm sorry, but the last video I did was 25 minutes long, and there's just no one in this world going to sit there and watch me ramble for 25 minutes on a computer. So we've dropped it back now into Lightroom. Let's get rid of that, we don't need that for now. Where did it put it? Alright, cool. Right, so we've dropped it back into Lightroom. Now the first thing that I will do when I get back into here is I'll just bring the highlights down again a little bit. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create this feeling on the tree that it's late evening sun, the sun's going off for the day and setting in the background, so the tree this side would be dark, so just drop that down. The one thing that I did make a mistake on this image was I used a 0.9 graduated filter and I pulled it down too far. That's why I've got such an imbalance here in this part of the image to there. Nothing that can't be corrected. Graduated filter. Put that on there like that. Reset the effects, and then we just bring that exposure, just bring it down slightly, just so that it balances it off. There we go. Not a lot, just a tickle. Right. Okay. The next thing that I tend to do is tone curve. So I like to sort of go for that sort of olden day look with some of the photographs that I do, and this one I thought particularly benefited from it. So what I've done there is I've just taken the blacks out of the image. So if you move that, it's taking the black out of the image basically. Same at the top, that takes white. It's no pure black, no pure white in the image now. And then it's just a case, I just manipulate the tone curve slightly. It's very, very subtle. Let's just let that pop out there. Right, okay. That'll do for that. Colour. I didn't like the green in this image, I remember when I did it. So basically I just changed the hue and made that more orangey brown, like that. I just thought it complemented the sort of the dead bracken and stuff much better than if it was like green, that garish green. Okay. Colour grade, and I split toned this, so I just give it a little tickle of blue into the shadows. Gave it a hint of orange into the highlights, and I gave it just I think it was just a hint of sort of orangey magenta into the mid-tones, and I took the shadows down slightly in there. Right, okay, so now I've got to that stage. I'm pretty happy with the image as it is. I think it looks quite nice. It's quite balanced. Yeah, you could say this is a bit dark, but we can always go back into the basic panel and just lift the shadow slightly if we wanted to bring that out. So we can do that and balance it off. Now one thing that I tend to do now before I go and start adjusting vibrance and stuff like that, I go into the calibration panel and I just push the saturation of the blues up, and you can see that when you do that, the image just pops. So that's with it, that's without. It's dead subtle, but it just makes it pop a little bit more. It looks nice. Right, so that's that done. Basic panel now. Tickle, just a tickle of vibrance, nothing too crazy. Might bring the saturation down slightly. Right. That's global adjustments done, with the exception of the graduated filter, obviously. I'm now going to get the brush out because I want to just emphasise where this light's coming from. So I'll just reset everything. I want a small brush for this, just a little one. A little feather on it. Flow rate's down at 12. What I tend to do with this is when I'm doing water, I just crank the whites, crank the exposure a bit. Now if you want to, you can press O, and that's going to colour it red wherever you've been. Sometimes I use that, but to be honest, I tend to like to see what I'm doing to the image rather than having it all in red and then the big reveal. So what I'm going to try and do, I'm just going to try and bring out some of these white tones here on where the water's caught, they're catching the rock. Like that. probably going to be catching in here as well. Now, you can spend forever in a day doing all this sort of stuff. I did a bit on here as well, I remember, because the light was catching it there. I did a bit in here too, all over that grass. I darkened this down even more. I'm not going to go through all the brushing because it'll just be here all day, but you get the idea. So once I've got the brushing done, we'll call that finished. The next thing that I did was I threw a radial filter on it because I wanted that to be emphasised there, just to further emphasise the waterfall, and I turned it in line with the direction of light. Now you'll notice that everything went red there. It's because you've got to invert it. If you click O when you've got the radial filter on, it'll show you what area is being affected. Now for me that's too much, so I want to apply a luminance mask to that. I just want it to affect the height. That's it, perfect. Something like that. Okay. You've got to be very subtle with this because otherwise it'll go crazy. So just increase the exposure slightly. See, just gentle touches, with the highlights of it, just slightly. And all I'm trying to do here is just draw your eye. Just draw the eye. Just bring that down. Okay, happy with that. Yeah, nice. Right, next one was graduated filter. I want to try and make this tree just a little bit darker. So just put a graduated filter on there. Now you can see it's capped the settings from the last thing. So, oh, hang on, my mum's calling me. I'll speak to you in a bit, mum. I'm doing a video. Right, here we go. So again, need a luminance mask on this one. I only want to affect the tree, so I'm going to slide that down there just so it affects the tree. Now you'll see it's catching the grasses here, which I don't want. Flick the brush on, erase. Floor needs to be up at 100 for this to get rid of it quick. And we just get rid of all that red. I don't want any of that there. Make sure that none of it's in there, right? Okay, we can flick off that, showing the luminous mask. Now what we're going to do is just going to bring down the exposure slightly. It's just going to make that tree ever so slightly darker. Bring the shadows down a little bit as well. You see, what would have happened though if I'd not done this and I'd not got rid of that with the brush, this grass here would have all been getting darker as well, and it would have just looked wrong. We're trying to make it look real, or as real as we can. If you can call a sky replacement real. So anyway, so that's that. Then the last thing that I would do is I'd go into effects. I'll caveat this for now. I'd spend a lot longer doing this. I'm just trying to give you a feel for exactly the process that I went through when I created it. But what I would do now is I would literally go into effects. I'd slap the vignette on full because I like to see where it's going to affect. I'd change the midpoint and bring that in, and then I'd also change the roundness as well because I wanted to affect this and I want you to be drawn here. I'm not so bothered about the top of the image so much. Once I've got that there, highlights up to full because I want the highlights to come through the vignette. I'd feather it slightly as well, and then just drag this back gently. And that's it, done. So I think you can agree it's a different image to what I started with. I'll show you the before and after. So effectively that's now, and that was before. Was it? Yeah, it was that one, sorry. That's now, that's before. Now, before. Huge difference. Not everyone's cup of tea, accept that. Not bothered. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. If you want to play with it, you can, you know. The one thing I'd say about Luminar 4 is that it's a standalone piece of software. You don't have to have Lightroom to run it. I use it as a plug-in with Lightroom so that I can use both and use Photoshop as well. Because if there was stuff on here that I needed to remove from the image, I'd throw it into Photoshop first and I'd clean it up, removing everything that I wanted to take out the photograph first. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll throw a proper video up midweek when I'm out in the field. But until next time, thanks for watching, and let us know what you think. I'll see you around.